Evolution plays an important role in how we are here today. When we think of evolution, we think of something evolving or changing over time, about something or someone. But what is it really? In short, evolution is the change of characteristics of a species over many generations and relies on the process of natural selection, which is a topic we will be discussing today. You have probably heard of Charles Darwin at least once. He was a British naturalist who came up with the theory of biological evolution by natural selection, which is why he is such an important historical figure when it comes to the development of scientific and humanist ideas. His theory of evolution helped people understand their place in the process of evolution and helped them understand how humanity had evolved. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection was first put forward in his book On the Origin of Species, which was published in 1859. His theory contains two major ideas, the first being that evolution occurs. This means that organisms change over time and that life on Earth has changed as descendants diverged from common ancestors in the past. His second idea is that evolution occurs by natural selection. Natural selection is the process in which living things with beneficial traits produce more offspring than others do. This will result in changes in the traits of living things over time. But how did Charles Darwin come up with these ideas and his main theory? It first started in 1831, at just 22 years old, when he went on a scientific expedition on a ship called the HMS Beagle. He was the naturalist on this voyage, meaning that his job was to observe and collect specimens of plants, animals, rocks, and fossils wherever the expedition went ashore. This trip took a total of 5 years, but over 3 of those years, Darwin explored nature on distant continents and islands. Most of the trip was spent sailing around South America. Throughout South America, he collected many bird specimens. One of his most important observations was made from the observation of specimens on the Galapagos Islands. He noticed that individual Galapagos Islands differed from one another. Some were rocky and dry, while others had better soil and more rainfall. Not only were the islands different, but as well as the plants and animals that lived on these different islands. First, he noticed that the finches on the island were smaller to the finches on the mainland, but they each had their own characteristics that helped them gather food easier in their specific habitat. He also noticed that the giant tortoises on one island had saddle-shaped shells while others had dome-shaped shells. The tortoises with saddle-shaped shells helped them reach up to eat plant leaves above their heads, while the tortoises with dome-shaped shells restricted them from reaching up. This made Darwin question how each island came to have its own tortoise. Darwin, just like other scientists, didn't come up with his theory by himself. He was influenced by the ideas of many other earlier thinkers. Some of these earlier thinkers were Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, Charles Lyell, and Thomas Malthus. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was an important French naturalist and was one of the first scientists to propose the idea that species change over time, but his idea on how they changed were wrong. He believed that traits that an organism develops during its own lifetime cannot be passed on to offspring, which is wrong since those traits can be passed on to offspring. With the help of the fossils that Darwin found on his travels, it helped convince him that species are able to change over time by observing how the fossils change as well. Charles Lyell was a well-known English geologist. He wrote many books, but Darwin was so fascinated by one of his books called Principles of Geology, which he brought with him on his voyage. Lyell came to the conclusion that gradual geological processes have gradually shaped Earth's surface, and that Earth is far older than what most people believed. This helped support Darwin's idea that there had been enough time for evolution to produce the great diversity of life he had observed on his voyage. Lastly, Thomas Malthus was an English economist who wrote an essay called On Population. In this essay, he talked about how human populations grow faster than the resources they depend on. When populations get too big, famine and disease break out. This results in the weakest members of the population to be killed off, helping keep the population in check. In Darwin's words, overproduction of offspring led to a struggle for existence. Darwin was aware that humans could breed plants and animals to have useful traits. By choosing which animals were allowed to reproduce, they could change an organism's traits. An example of such would be these pigeons. This fantail pigeon was bred from the common rock pigeon. Darwin called this type of change in organisms artificial selection to distinguish it from natural selection. Darwin knew that some offspring have chance variations that can be inherited. When it comes to nature, offspring with certain variations can be more likely to survive the struggle for existence and reproduce. If so, they would pass their favorable variations on to their offspring. Lastly, how was Darwin able to confirm his theories and ideas? This is with the help of another English naturalist named Alfred Russel Wallace. Wallace lived around the same time as Darwin and had also traveled to distant places to study nature. He came up with the same theory of evolution as Darwin, which gave him the idea of writing to him. While working on distant lands, Wallace sent Darwin a paper that he had written. He explained his own theory of evolution, which helped confirm Darwin's theory. Wallace not only confirmed his theory, but also influenced him to publish his book, which has changed science forever. Darwin introduced the term fitness to describe an organism's ability to survive and produce offspring. Nature selects the variations that are most useful, which is why he decided to name this type of selection natural selection. With the help of his observations on his voyage and the help of other scientists' ideas, he was able to confirm his theory and piece it all together. After being influenced by Wallace to publish his book, we now have a general understanding of natural selection. His theory has also made a big impact today by providing a scientific explanation of the diversity of life with the help of natural and artificial selection.